Hi, Kerry here again on a new video. Wasn't expecting to do this video, but books kept arriving over the last week, sorry, and so I thought I'd do an acquisitions video just to catch up with things. Well, in other news, before I get onto that, New Zealand is in a level 4 lockdown due to COVID at the moment. That's the strictest lockdown conditions that we have. So that's put an extra pressure on things, and I was already having quite a stressful week, and that just added to it, and I've been made to work because I'm apparently an essential worker. So on Thursday and Friday we were working and wearing masks, so it's shorter shifts, and trying to keep in a bubble of workers. And after I got home on Friday, got the news that I'm going to be from now on working at a totally different location over the other side of town. Now that wasn't the best news I could have got, because it makes travel for me commuting extra difficult, but guess we have to go with the flow. And anyway, so on to the books. So first up, about 10 days ago, this arrived from the book depository. Yes, The Man Who Folded Himself by David Gerald. Now, every time there's a discussion online or in magazines about time travel stories, this one always gets referenced as it's like the ultimate time travel story with paradoxes and loops and what have you. Now, I haven't read a lot by David Gerald. I think the last thing I read by him was A Matter for Men, the first in the War Against the Ch'tor series. I never really followed up the rest of that series. I believe it's actually has never finished. He hasn't written the final book in the series, and it's been like 20-30 years now. And I also know that he's a big name in the Star Trek fiction world. He's written original series, and then he went off and wrote his own characters and ships and what have you. And people seem to hold him in quite high esteem for that. So it'll be interesting to see what this one's, if it's all it's cracked up to be. Now then, earlier this week, this arrived. French Secret Projects 3, French and European Spaceplane Designs. Now this appeals to the space nerd in me. It's an interest I've had all my life, and this is, despite its title of French Secret Project, it's more European space plane design since the end of World War II, and it branches even broader into Russian and even some Japanese designs. So it's just like a handy place to put diagrams and photos and artist impressions of all these projects. Here we go. Hermes, and so that's an interesting one. It's an interesting companion piece to the British Secret Projects book they put out a few years back about the Mustard Project and what have you. So that's another one for the reference library. Now on Friday there was a whole bundle of packages in my letterbox when I got home, and here they go. So first one's Grace Dent, Hungry. This is her memoir. Now, Grace Dent is a restaurant and food critic for the Guardian newspaper in the UK, and I've been listening to her podcast recently, and it's where she talks to various celebrities or public figures about their comfort food and their history of eating, and how food has affected their lives and general state of well-being, and it's a really good listen. And Grace Dent seems interesting herself. Everyone recommends this memoir as a lot of good fun and a lot of good reading, so we'll have a look at that soon. Next up, Repo Virtual. Now this is by Corey J. White. Now this is a cyberpunk novel, a latter-day cyberpunk novel by, I believe, Corey J. White is an Australian. I may be wrong about that, but I remember reading that somewhere. So it's just maybe your standard cyberpunk brought up to the 21st century. Its reviews are good for it, so I've had it on a wish list for about 2 or 3 years now, and it recently came out in paperback, so I thought I'd grab it. So I'm not sure how soon I'll get to reading this. TBR is about the size of Mount Everest at the moment, but there we go. That's Repo Virtual. And this one here, Through the Looking Glasses. Now, this was written by a Travis Alborough, who was a guest on a recent episode of the Big Mouth podcast, which is a kind of a British culture and media review and discussion podcast that comes out of the UK. Like I said, it usually has one or two interesting guests, and sometimes they talk about the work that they've been, works of books and whatever else they've been working on. This was the case with this. Now this is a history of reading glasses through the ages, spectacles like these, and so that'd be interesting. I just thought it'd be an interesting book to read about history of optical correction and what have you. And last of all, Harry Kunzru's Red Pill. Now this author was, until COVID intervened, was slated to make an appearance, electronically at least, at the Christchurch Word Book Festival, which was supposed to start next week, I believe, but they've since had to postpone it due to the level 4 lockdown and the general COVID putting a spanner in the works. Now this is a book about a fellow who's living in Germany and basically comes in contact with various alt-right and whatever online movements, and it's supposed to be a book very much of our time, and it investigates the culture that we live in now. So that will be interesting, and although I probably won't get around to reading it until 5 years, but that's the book, Red Pill. So there we go. That's everything that's arrived in the last 10 days or so. I am still reading the P.D.G. Lee Clark book, Master of Jinn. So we'll have it. I did plan to make a video on that soon, but it's probably going to be a little delayed due to me not having as much reading time as I expected. So we'll see you next time. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers.